Welcome to this week's episode, Yes and Leadership. In this episode, Jeff and Erin sit down with Gina Trimarco, keynote speaker, improv theater owner, and creator of the trademarked Improvised Intelligence framework to dig into why your smartest, most experienced people still won't make a move without you.
My job is to make the other person look good, support their ideas, not chop them down. Even if it's a bad idea, I'm going to add to it to make it better. In order to do that, you have to be hyper-focused in your listening and paying attention and then collaborating and validating. All of that happens on stage in a matter of seconds. Imagine applying that at work every day.
Highly Adaptive is a podcast where staffing and consulting leaders learn to outpace change. Hosted by Jeff Pelliccio and Erin MacKenzie, they'll cut through the noise to bring you practical moves you could use right now to grow, adapt, and lead. Most leaders say they want their teams to think for themselves, to make decisions, to take ownership, and then stop waiting around for approval. But here's what's actually happening in a lot of organizations right now. The culture itself is making that impossible. Today, we're getting into why psychological safety isn't just nice to have. It's the thing that makes accountability actually work. And we've got someone joining us who has spent decades at the intersection of leadership, culture, and one of the most underrated performance disciplines out there. So get ready, because this one's going to change how you think about how your team makes decisions.
You guys, I am incredibly excited because our guest today has built a career around the idea of how you show up in the room, any room, and determines what's possible in it. She's a keynote speaker who I've had the pleasure of seeing myself and was incredibly taken away. It was amazing. She's a leadership trainer, culture coach, and the author of The New Choice Effect. She's the owner of Carolina Improv Company in South Carolina, and she's a creator of a trademarked framework called Improvised Intelligence, which connects the discipline of improv performance directly to emotional intelligence and real-time leadership. She started at Second City in Chicago. For those of you that don't know what Second City is, you probably should go ahead and Google it right now. She's trained executives, built teams, and I will absolutely join her any moment in a conga line if the moment calls for it. So Gina Trimarco, welcome to Highly Adaptive.
Thank you so much, Erin and Jeff. I am so excited to be here improvising with you today.
We are going to have some fun. I mean, Gina, you and I first met because you were speaking at Thrive Live, and we definitely kicked off a conga line that went for a pretty good amount of time there.
It is the longest conga line ever. As a matter of fact, it's the only conga line that is broken out at one of my keynotes. As you know, I have a little dance exercise to kind of get people comfortable with the uncomfortable and out of their seats. And it's usually just meant to be like a 20-second situation of dancing. This 20 seconds turned into a full 3 minutes with a conga line led by you. And I have never seen that happen in all my keynotes, and it was the best thing ever.
We had so much fun, and everyone still actually talks about that conga line. So we had a blast, and it was such a phenomenal, I mean, you really kicked it off in the energy that you brought. So I want to kind of dive in a little bit, because before we get started here, Gina, we like to kind of see, where did this all started? And you are a seasoned speaker, you're a seasoned leadership expert, but I want to kind of dive into your origin story a little bit, because it will be really, really fun of how you got to where you are today. And I know you shared with us a little bit about this, of how you even ended up in improv.
Sure. It's such a fun little story. You know, I grew up creatively. My parents allowed me to do all kinds of creative things like music lessons and dance lessons and art lessons and voice lessons. And I had that creative nature, but I was also the daughter of a very blue collar worker who, well, that's a whole nother story we could get into, who worked for the mob a little bit. But my dad wanted me, I don't know if we ever got into that. True story. But my dad wanted me to be an accountant. And because I think in his mind, he thought, well, she'll be able to get a good job. You know, this is a man who didn't finish grade school, let alone go to high school. My mom dropped out of high school. And so I think in their minds, they're like, oh, accounting. Yes, you know, go to college, be an accountant. So I did that, or I started to. And then I had a mid-college life crisis in my freshman year at the age of 19. And I thought, well, first of all, I failed a math class that was required for me to be an accountant. And I'm like, there's just no way. I got 3 more years to go. It's not happening. So I melted down and I thought, well, why don't I tap into like something that would be more creative? And radio and TV and film intrigued me, especially with a performance background. So I started kind of like poking around. Could I go do something? So I was home for the summer and I stumbled on a broadcasting school, which I thought was some
Ooh.
prestigious broadcasting school, which was really like a vocational school, like, come and get your HVAC certification, but it was for broadcasting. Right. So I walk into this, I'm not going to say the name of it, but school of broadcasting. And I get into the counselor's room and the counselor, right? Like he's a counselor, but he's really a sales guy, right? Like trying to sign me up. And he shuts the door. Now, this is, I know I'm dating myself, late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And shuts the door. There I am, impressionable, young, confused college girl in this office with this man. And he shuts the door and he says, "You don't want to go here."
The truth.
Run.
Leave now.
Don't do it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, He's like, go take an improv class. Go to Second City and take an improv class. When you grow up in Chicago, you know that improv is, it's a thing, right? It's on every corner. And of course, Second City is
Sure.
the mothership. But he's like, go take an improv class. That's what I'm doing. And so this was like, a wannabe radio guy, now in a sales role, selling vocational school, taking improv classes, told me to go sign up for an improv class. And that's exactly what I did. And I spent the summer taking improv classes and I was hooked. And I met all these ad executives in my classes, like all the major ad agencies in Chicago. You had all these creatives taking improv classes to improve their creativity. And here I was like 19. I was the baby. I was the baby in the group taking these classes. And by the end of the summer, I knew I had to change my major. I'm like, I can't, okay, I'm not going to go to that broadcasting school, but I could change my major to journalism. And that's exactly what I did because of improv. It opened the doors for me to see the possibilities. It taught me like anything is possible, the whole concept of yes and it totally just changed my entire life over that summer. And then of course I dated the counselor for a little bit. There's that.
This is the best story ever.
Like there's so many nuggets in here. I don't even know how to segue this back into the conversation.
Yeah, I'm like, you can't script anything with me, Jeff.
Improv on the fly. We get to like run with this.
On the fly. I mean, listen, I'm like frozen here. All right, so let's do, I guess, like just a chunky segue into the topic. That's wild, and I'm still like honestly fluttering around with like the fact that there's like a mob component in here too. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you that part, did I?
No, you just sprinkled it in there like it was just casual.
It's in the book. Read about it in the book.
I was starting to make connections to the accounting concept, for the books. Okay, let's bring this all full circle. Let's get into the conversation at hand here. So, we're talking about sort of that almost analysis paralysis that happens inside organizations and why teams kind of like wait as opposed to act. So, to kind of like open up that space, like what does it look like when teams stop deciding, right? And then when did you realize that this is more of like a cultural pattern versus like some other like issue?
Well, let's unpack the first question. What happens? Right? Like we all know what happens when teams don't there's so much with this, right? Like sometimes teams don't make decisions because they're not empowered to make decisions. They don't feel like they can make decisions. They've been punished in the past for wrong decisions. And so what happens is nothing happens, right? Indecision happens. Progress stops happening. And everybody looks around the room like, and I run into this as a consultant all the time of, we don't know who's in charge of making the decisions. As simple as like meetings. I've observed meetings where they end the meeting and they walk away and I'm like, hold on. Who's doing what next? Like where?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the next steps?
Next steps.
Next step.
Yeah. Who's responsible for what?
And this is such a, believe it or not, like so commonplace that now I'm being brought in to actually help people set next steps in meetings. And I'm like, okay, you want to pay me to do that? That's cool. I'll do that. Because people are so stifled and stuck and afraid to make the wrong decision that they don't make any decision. So progress basically stops without it.
Yeah.
What was the part 2 question?
Like, when did you recognize that this is more cultural versus like experience driven or skill set driven, right? Because, if you have an experience in the room, I know that like when I was much younger and didn't know my up from down, I would certainly pause. I wouldn't raise my hand. I wouldn't volunteer because I didn't want to put myself in the crosshairs of the problem. But in this instance, like, we're talking about this as a more cultural component where there's some other force or pressure organizationally that's keeping people from making decisions. So like, when did you start to make that correlation?
Probably in the past, I've been consulting now for almost 20 years. Probably in the past 20 years, I mean, I started to see it. It's really been at the forefront in the past 10 years that I've seen this happening. And you talk about the cultural versus the experience. And I want to touch on that for a second, because what I have witnessed is that, I think it's really purely cultural. And I think you have so many people with experience at the table and they know how to make decisions, but the culture has stifled them from making decisions. And so you have all this amazing experience. But I mean, I'm dealing with some of my clients right now with that, where it takes a long time to move the ball forward in some really important decision making. I'm in a situation right now. We are on meeting number 6 today of a situation, 6 consecutive days of one situation we're trying to solve, because we have to get consensus and we can't hurt people's feelings. And what if we make the wrong decision? And we're talking about some smart people, advanced degree, highly educated people who have the ability and the capability, but are based in fear.
Why do you think that is? Like, because that's interesting, like especially since you guys are in day 6. I mean, that's a long time to be kind of chatting through stuff. And I mean, you brought it back even earlier, like making the decisions, you're taking what's the next steps. I mean, why do you think for certain companies, because I'm sure this is not the only one that is taking this amount of time, but do you feel that's a cultural side, or do you think it's just, you said fear. Do you think it's like fear that's been established across the entire organization, so nobody like feels that they can speak up or state, okay, guys, like, let's finish this off. Here's our next steps. Let's get through this. Move to the next item.
I always lean into it's a leadership issue.
Yeah.
I always lean into who's at the top that's allowing the culture to go the different directions. I think that's a big piece of it. What I've seen from a fear perspective is, especially in siloed organizations, that I've had people say to me, because I executive coach a lot, and I've had people say to me, well, so-and-so is going to come at me if I do this. And I just don't trust. Like, a lot of this is trust and psychological safety. That's why the next book I'm writing is about trust. This person has stabbed me in the back before. And so I'm going to do nothing just to preserve, just to keep myself safe and off the radar. And some of this is, inner conflict, not necessarily with the leader, but the leader doesn't always have the emotional intelligence to see it. And so you've got this kind of infighting just below the top leadership. And sometimes the top leader sees it, but doesn't want to get involved in it. Like, I don't want to. I've had leaders say to me, I shouldn't have to deal with this. I'm like, well, if you don't, this will continue. So yeah, you shouldn't have to deal with it, but you've got the ball, buddy.
Well, it's fascinating because there's a few things that you'd mentioned, right? Like, you shouldn't have to deal with it, but it's likely the environment that you created, right? So there's sort of like a push and pull that sort of occur here. But then also the thing that's fascinating is in your example on being on day 6, where you've got this sort of scenario where people are needing to get to a decision by consensus. It's funny, when we open the conversation, I think I had an intention of kind of speaking to the people who are really strong gatekeepers who maybe don't trust, decisions to be made further down cycle, or potentially like people who don't feel comfortable with being able to make an opinion statement or make a recommendation, because then they feel that it's somehow, if it doesn't land precisely or if it's not fully baked 100%, that they get ridiculed. But what's fascinating is also from a leadership perspective, if you're one who's unwilling to make decisions and creating an environment of consensus, how that also has the same freeze sort of outcome as the one where, everything needs to pass through one individual and you bottleneck. So that consensus creates its own bottlenecking too, which is kind of fascinating.
100%. And I've seen, I've worked with some really just heart-centered leaders that are really good, amazing people. And part of that, it's like the pro and con of it. They're like amazing people, but they're the amazing people who want to make everybody happy. And because they want to make everybody happy, now we're in a consensus situation. And then they're juggling, oh, I just upset Erin. Okay, never mind. We're going to do it like this. Oh, Jeff doesn't like that. Never mind. We're going to do it like this. Oh, no, Gina's upset. No, never mind. We're going to, right. And you see them kind of waffling because they're trying to please everybody when at the end of the day, humans just want structure. Like, just make a decision and then make the decision right.
It's like they get into this like cyclical circle of trying to help everyone, but not really thinking about how do we help everyone at the same time to make an actual decision. Like, it's not about pleasing. You have to make a decision, and the right decision.
It's a job, not a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then it gets even deeper of, right? I think we talked about this last time too, of it's okay to make the wrong decision.
Yeah, completely.
Guess what? You might make a bad decision, but is any decision really bad? Someone asked me that once, and I'm like, I don't think any decision is really bad. I think it's the decision that gets you to the next decision. Like, okay, we tried this, it didn't work. Let's try something else. If you could get people out of that fear, right? This is what I see. People don't want to make a decision because they're afraid to make the wrong decision. Well, then they're never going to move. I would rather make a lot of messy, bad decisions that get me to the right place, which is what we do in improv. Like, right, we always win on stage, even when we suck. When we're bad, people are still laughing and clapping for us because they relate to it.
Sure.
Exactly. It's so true, because I've never been to an improv where I haven't laughed, even when I don't know what's going on in their minds, or you see some of the looks like the oh shit moments. Which direction are we going right now?
Exactly.
There's always that. I have a question for you too, though, like, because I think that there's a version of psychological safety that companies use as an excuse not to also hold people accountable. So what does it actually mean, and what does it look like when it's actually working right?
Psychological safety?
Yeah, correct.
Psychological safety is working right when people are willing to voice their opinions without fear. Right? That's when it's working right. Like, I have an idea, right? And even sometimes I'll say, hey, I have an idea. It might be a crazy idea. I just want to throw this out there. And if I feel safe to do that, I mean, I do it with my own team, right? Right. With my improv team. Like, we have a theater, we have classes, but I'm in the process of training 6 new trainers, and I have 2 other trainers on my team. And now with the 6 plus the 2, right, I've got 8 of them, and I've been allowing those 6 to be part of decision making. And a lot of it is like leadership and managing people issues. I'm like, here's the situation, and it's a great learning. Like, here's the newest situation with Joe. What would you guys do about it? And I put that, like, I'm sharing with them now. I said, there's no wrong answer, you guys. Like, we're in a group text.
Yeah.
I'm like, how would you handle it? And you see them all chiming in. And what's beautiful about it is, right, like, oh, well, Joe's a good guy and we want to support Joe. And like, let's let this, like, there's requirements when you're in a show. Like, you have to practice and things like that. And like, we have rules. So they all chime in. I'm like, well, I would do this. I would do this. And then one of the guys comes along and said, well, to be honest, I'm going to tell you what I think. He's been unreliable. He's done this. He's done that. I think we need to set some other parameters around him. Right? He came in on the tail end of a conversation in a text where everybody had the same kind of opinion. And he's like, I'm going to be contrarian here.
The truth bomb mic drop, is that...
Right? He's like, but he did it in such a way of like, this is my perspective. And I'm like, wow, what a great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. Right? Because now me as the leader, I'm like, and quite honestly, I sided with his perspective.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? But the majority did not side with my perspective. But I also said there's no wrong answer here because we're dealing with humans. So like I'm trying to get them into a thinking process. Let's think about this. Let's think about the people involved. Let's think about their psychological safety. But you have to create an environment where people feel safe enough to speak up and know that their opinion will matter, even if it's not utilized. That is when psychological safety is working.
And I think it's important to take note, right? Like this is not a quick solution, right? Getting to this space of even having the environment where people feel comfortable to even voice an opinion, that number one, they voice it appropriately and with respect. And, you know, they don't like, it's not an ad hoc argument, but it's actually like a point to the problem. So there's that educational piece as well. But then also, I mean, listen, I would love to just simply like rattle someone and be like, I just need this tomorrow, you know? But oftentimes that doesn't get you that psychological safety. It doesn't get you the environment of sort of like tolerance and community sharing. So these things take like effort and they take time. And as a result, you end up with, you know, multipliers on the outside, right? You end up with visibility to things that you wouldn't normally see. You end up with conversations that you may not have normally had. And you usually end up resulting in some innovation that maybe you hadn't thought of or considered.
Exactly. And that's the big part about improv and the whole yes and concept of like, I hear your idea and I'm going to add to that idea. And that's the collective we should be creating, which does take time and patience. And I'm an impatient person.
We all are.
Right?
We all are.
And I know that, you know, I think I learned a lot from COVID because COVID shut our theater down. And so then we lost our brick and mortar location. And I feel like I changed as a leader afterwards, right? Like we had some downtime. We were shut down for 3 years. We still don't have our own brick and mortar location, but how I look at things is different. I'm not making decisions by myself. I'm going to the collective and saying, what do you guys think? Because I'm having a hard time. Because they're also closer, right? So from an emotional intelligence standpoint, they're in the trenches. And I talk about this a lot too with leaders. The higher you are, sometimes your EQ kind of starts to break down because you're up here in the ivory tower versus in the trenches. So I go to the collective because I'm like, what do you know about Joe? What's going on with Joe? Right? They have a better pulse. And so if I make a decision without having all the information, I'm a jerk. That's what I'm trying. That's what I avoid now. I'm like,
just avoid being a jerk.
I want to avoid or perceived as a jerk, right? Like, and it also helps. Like, if I have that kind of approach, they're also more willing to hear my side of why we do things a certain way. Like, it's kind of fun right now bringing up these 6 people because they're like, oh, we had no idea about this, and this. I'm like, I know. So it's like, I feel like I'm creating like a little group of friends that like, they get it, because the higher up you are in leadership, the more lonely it becomes because nobody really understands the bigger picture of what you're dealing with, and you're in the big picture. So you're not down below looking at the little picture, and you need to find a way to blend the two.
You're also, though, building up these leadership qualities that they may have never been taught. So instead of being like the air quote jerk, it's really kind of also teaching them what does it look like to be a leader, a manager, be in different situations so they can have these different skill sets of collaboration.
In the end, you know, you can't hold people accountable if people don't feel safe in the culture. I much prefer those environments where, like, I also need to be held accountable, even as the owner of my own company. Like, I'm not without fault or flaw. And so, making sure that people understand that, like, it's both obviously in the executive directives, but it also comes full circle that, like, it's their voices too at the front lines that typically are seeing, feeling, experiencing things that would take a lot longer for them to get to me. And so you got to have those standards in place. Otherwise, everybody's just going to avoid the problem.
Exactly. And I think when you create that, again, that collective, and you create that psychological safety, then the ideas come. And we do live in one of our core values is yes and accepting people for who they are and making everybody look good and hearing them out. And we're better for it, right? This new group of trainers, they've already brought me a couple ideas where I'm like, some of the ideas were like, "Oh, yeah, that's like I don't know why I wasn't doing that. Common
Right.
sense
Slam dunk.
idea." Right? And then some of them were like, "Oh, yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. We should try that." And so I'm already starting to implement things that they have brought to me, and you can see them start to, like, puff up and like, "Gina listens to me. Look, Gina's putting one of my ideas in place."
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, I love that so much. And I want to elaborate on that because a lot of people think that improv is about being funny. It's the comedy side. I mean, I know I've gone to my fair share of improv and have my fun stories to go with it. But I mean, it really honestly takes it to a different level from across the board with what you've learned from Second City and where you're at Carolina Improv. But can you help explain to everyone, like, what does it train and why does that matter, do you think, for a leadership team, both from the improv side and then you think about it from the professional standard?
Sure. When I really started to look at how improv would kind of transfer over into business, obviously I started it for fun, and then I thought maybe I'd be discovered for Saturday Night Live, and none of that happened.
It didn't happen yet, Gina.
Not yet. Could still happen. I started to see the real soft skills in improv, the listening, the observational skills. When we perform an improv show without a script, we have to be able to really focus in. How's the audience reacting? We study patterns of behavior. Like, I teach that class of listen to the reaction on their face, in their voice, right? These are all major soft skills that lend themselves to emotional intelligence. So if you think about everything that EQ involves, self-awareness and social awareness, self-management and relationship management, this is improv every single day because we get on stage and my job is to make the other person look good, support their ideas, not chop them down and like, oh, that's a stupid idea, or no, we're not going to do that. My job is to actually support their idea and add to it. Even if it's a bad idea, I'm going to add to it to make it better and work together. So in order to do that, you have to be hyper focused in your listening and paying attention and then collaborating and validating. Like, all of that happens on stage in a matter of seconds. Imagine applying that at work every day, how different the culture would be. And so when I started to really recognize that, that's when it was before I started my business. And I've been in business since 2008. I had to think about it. But when I was working in another business, I brought in a company like mine to do customer service training based on improv because I started to notice the deficits with people on my team not being able to interact with the general public. And so I brought in a company like mine to do that training. And then as I watched it unfold, even though I had the improv experience, I hadn't used it in a business perspective.
Yeah.
I said, that's what I'm going to do next. When I leave this company, I'm going to do this next. And that's exactly what happened. It was 2008. Everything was tanking. I lost my job and I started doing this. Like, let me bring this into the business world.
It's interesting, right? Like, a lot of times I'll talk to our client-facing team, and tell them that I need them to be present, right? I need them to be aware. I need them to sort of like pay attention to all the bits. But what I love about this conversation is that you've given me an ability to define what being present means. Like in your example of doing improv, where you need to be both self-aware and socially aware simultaneously, like that is presence. That is the absolute definition of presence. So it is fascinating that there are things that we are losing, especially, when you look at like the staffing industry specifically, where you've had so much technology emerge over, let's say, the last 7 years, 8 years between automation and AI, all with the intention of allowing people to do the more important things, or allowing people to be more connected and do the human aspect. But we've also somehow, by removing that repetition from their day, we've also started to decrease the muscle, right? The muscle is starting to atrophy. So their ability to actually be present, being self-aware and socially aware, their ability to connect on the levels that we want them to, are all starting to wane as a result of maybe overuse of some of these aspects that are supposed to be crutches and supporting mechanisms, and now they're using them as the absolute delivery.
As a replacement.
Yeah.
And, I know we're in this kind of hybrid world now, and I work with a lot of companies on this as well. It's like, I know that organizations have certain, you can work from home 2 days a week and be on Zoom. And, there are things that you can put in place to still stay present, right? If we're going to do a Zoom call or a Teams call, you still have to create expectations around that you will be present and you will have your cameras on. And I can see you when you look down at your cell phone. And I'm going to set expectations for us being here for each other, because that's what respect is.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all busy people, but if we're on a video call versus being in person, I need you to be present. That's the expectation for mutual respect, which is, again, everything that we do in improv. Like, my job is to make the other person look good. And if I'm what we call no side talking. Side talking is when the director or the teacher is directing or teaching, and you're on the side talking to your friend. It's not allowed. Like, side talking is not allowed, and I will shut it down. You know the rules. Don't let me call you out on it, because these are the rules. But if you don't set the expectations and you don't set the rules, how do they know?
Yeah.
You have to establish them. I mean, because if you don't, exactly to your point, you're going to get people that are doing everything else. I mean, I've been on many calls where I'll be the only one on video, and I will actually say, "Hey guys, I'd love to see your faces right now. I don't care if it's a client. I don't care if it's my own team."
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're eating, it's okay. You guys can eat on camera. Let's do this. But it's about setting the expectation, because when we do have that video, we're communicating, we're seeing one another, we're present in that moment, which makes a massive difference. And I mean, Gina, you also talked about I want to dive into this a little bit, because you did talk about improvised intelligence, and you had improvised intelligence and kind of the connection with emotional intelligence. And I would love for you to kind of dive a little bit more into that for everyone, because I think it's such a great point to hit home.
Yeah, I coined improvised intelligence and then trademarked it. And where it came from was because I became so fascinated with emotional intelligence, of being present and socially aware and self-aware and managing your own emotions. And I really went down the EQ rabbit hole, reading Daniel Goleman and every other expert in EQ. And as I started reading through these books, I'm like, wait a second, this is improv. Like, everything that they're talking about are the soft skills of improv. Like, this is improv, you guys. But the thing with emotional intelligence is, we know what it is and what it should be, but how do we put it in practice? How do we actually practice it? Because we can practice it. We can become more self-aware. We can be more socially aware. We can improve our relationships. We can regulate our own emotions. And improv improv is the path, in my opinion, because it's all the exercises that we do is what helps us rewire the brain to be more self-aware and socially aware. So I, thought it was kind of cutesy. I'm like, I'm calling this improvised intelligence. You got emotional intelligence and technical intelligence and IQ. I'm like, I'm going to create the improvised intelligence. So that's where it came from, is it's really the way we help people become more emotionally intelligent.
I think it's awesome. Like being able to take like a fundamental technique and turning it into a discipline, right? It makes it teachable. It makes it something that things that people can adopt into their own worlds. And these things, again, they don't happen overnight. If you're trying to remove ums and uhs from your like vocabulary and the ways that you speak, even that takes time for you to exercise and practice and get to a point where the pause is okay or a sign. Like, so taking the moment, learning improvised intelligence as a discipline is a really, really awesome thing that you're bringing to the community. So great on you. And thank you so much for that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you had mentioned before, right, that like there's no bad decisions. Decisions always lead you to a next step, which I absolutely love, right? Every choice is basically a door to get you to like the next space. So, but oftentimes I think that I'll even speak for myself. Like oftentimes I feel like a decision is needing to be made so that is going to be the cornerstone of what we're doing for an undetermined amount of time, which starts to feel like it's quite permanent. So from with the new choice effect that you've developed, like how does that reframe sort of that space for leaders when they're making big decisions?
Well, I think for one, you have to start getting yourself into the mindset of, I can make a series of choices. If I can't really come up with the best choice, sometimes it comes to you, you're like, oh, this is definitely what I should do. And that's easy. And sometimes it's not easy. And so what ends up happening is that we run into this paralysis of like thinking, I mean, I do. And I'm going to share my current choice paralysis I'm having right now with you as an example. But we have to just kind of shake our brain up and what, I can make a series of choices. I just need to do the next thing. And the next thing will get me to the next thing so that I'm not stifled here doing nothing. Because if I'm doing nothing, I'm truly going to get to a place of nothing. And I want to tell you this story because, I train a lot of salespeople too. And I have been interviewing, or I've been getting quotes for putting windows on our screen porch, right? Like not like a full sunroom, but making it like a 3 seasons room, like putting vinyl windows in. So I've had 5 companies come out to give me quotes, one being my ex-husband's company. So I know sunrooms really well because when I was married to him, I was part of the business and we're amicable. So I have 5 different companies come out. My ex-husband's is the last one to come out. One of his sales guys comes out and he's like, oh, I feel really under the spotlight here. I'm like, oh, I guess you heard I'm the ex-wife. I'm like, let it go.
Don't
shake
believe
it
anything
off.
he said.
Let it out, like shake it off, right? And we had a great post-sale coaching call on this. But when he presented the pricing, I literally did the typical customer. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so, and I knew it would be high because I know that they're the highest price company in the town. And I said, sometimes what ends up happening is the customer chooses to do nothing. They don't choose any of the 5 because it becomes so overwhelming to make the decision that they do nothing and nobody wins the deal. And so you know what I did? I'm like, someone's got to help me here because I can't do it. I had ChatGPT pull all the quotes together, write a summary report for me, and I gave it to my stepson, the engineering student who's a freshman in college. And I said, can you review this and give me your opinion?
I love it.
I love it. Why not? Someone from the outside.
And he came back. I don't have to make the decision by myself. So that would be my advice for a leader. Like, don't put this all on yourself. There are resources. There are people on your team. You have a spouse, you got a friend. Like, go somewhere else and say, I can't think clearly on this right now. What do you think? And so as my stepson walked through it, and his opinion was different than ChatGPT's opinion, which was
Yeah.
interesting in itself. But of course, I value his opinion more. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. And then I said to my husband, I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, Chase, I already decided.
It's already done.
Okay, wait. So I have to ask, who'd you go with?
They don't know yet.
We just had the conversation last night, and I had texted my ex-husband, and he said, wow, you are really milking it for the discount. And we're going to see what he comes back with. I mean, I think at the end of the day, his company is actually the best company from a quality perspective. And his company opened my eyes, which created a little bit of confusion of like electrical matters that matter that nobody else told me about. And I'm going to actually write a blog about this of like how the customer can get confused on what decision to make. And then, I could choose the wrong company and have more issues later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's part of it. But then now you're talking about who do you trust? And even though he's my ex-husband, I trust his company and I trust his expertise over these
Sure.
other people that I don't know.
Did you keep the pricing in when you gave it to GPT and your stepson?
Yeah.
You did. So
Yeah.
one of the things I'm like, have you ever done like a wine tasting but not known how much the bottle cost? And sometimes you end up liking the bottle that's less expensive, but the price shifts your perspective. So I was very curious if you kept that pricing in there. It is tough, especially when you're going to get an all-inclusive sort of concept like that, right? Like if they're coming in to do this thing, it's going to be pretty inclusive. One of my good friends, Maurice Fuller, I was dealing with like a variety of different things that I was trying to process, especially in the early stages of Allied Insight. And he kept reminding me, he's like, progress, not perfection. Because oftentimes I would get stuck into this cycle where I needed to have not only the first phase figured out, but all 7 phases to its completion, so that way I can make every decision now and line it all up so I can get the final outcome. But I mean, let's be honest, if that worked that way, there'd be no reason to have a plan B, right? Like plan Bs exist because plan A doesn't work like many times,
My attitude is know the ultimate destination. And sometimes you might not know which route to take. And you might have route A and route B and route C. And then you get detoured because you see like a really cool coffee shop you want to stop at. And next thing you know, the trip has changed. And that's the beauty of it. The beauty is in the detours of it all. I know where I have to get ultimately. And even with that being said, my outcome might change because I made other choices and I might have a better outcome. So, how can you stay open minded and flexible? Still move forward, still make the decisions, even today for this podcast, right? We were joking about it, right? I saw your message. I know how structured you are. I was giggling. I'm like,
You're like, that's cute.
I'm like, oh, look how cute his structure is. Yeah. He doesn't know who he's dealing. Like, I think that's what keeps me nimble and agile is that I can pivot and not sweat too much. I'm still a perfectionist. I'm
Sure.
still a planner. I still have A, B, and C plan. And it's okay to have that. You have to be willing to go off the plan.
Gina, it sounds like you live your own adventure book. Gina's
I love that.
Turn to page 32 if you want to ride the grasshopper to such and such.
Oh my God. I absolutely love that analogy because now I'm picturing Gina riding a grasshopper and the grasshoppers are plentiful here in Arizona right now. So this is excellent. This is great. But I think to your point, Gina, I mean, something that you said is that, you have a direction, you know where you're going, and then you're like, oh, coffee shop, let me go here. And then your entire path can change. And I've written several blogs around the pivot, being okay to pivot in any moment. You never know what's going to happen. But accept the pivot, be willing to accept the change. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, like see where it's going to take you. And Jeff, you've said this multiple times, is you're exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. And
Yeah.
I think that's such a true statement across the board. And it really comes back to like the choice effect as well, is you have the choice to either stop at the coffee shop or keep on driving, or you need that rest stop or something along the lines. There might be, hey, T-Rex at this rest stop, come take pictures. Well, now it's like, oh, detour, let's go do this. I'm going for it, right? Like,
well, that's just it. If you live your life with like this, this was another thing that came up in improv for me early on. I had a teacher who said, never stop being so childlike. You know, I was the youngest one in the group, and I always felt like they looked at me as like the kid. And he kind of pulled me aside and said, don't lose that childlike way. And so I've stayed very childlike and curious and like, oh, where might this go? Oh, this might go wrong and this might happen because of it. Like that to me is about the choosing your own adventure and having fun. And I want to add this to it because just before we came on today, my husband was having a little meltdown, the current husband.
Not the ex.
Not the ex.
The current, so he's a police officer and he works at a university and he's in school. He's getting his undergraduate degree slowly over many years and takes a couple classes a semester. And he has a like major anxiety around test taking and getting homework done. And he was melting down this morning because he was supposed to take a test and he didn't because he wasn't prepared. And he's just so melted down. And I'm like, dude, like, just study. Like I'm having a hard time understanding you. Like just study. Like make time to study.
Put in the work.
We went deeper and I'm like, what is the issue here? I don't get it. And he goes, what am I going to do when I graduate? I'm like, who cares? Like you're in your 50s. Like, I'm like, what am I going to do with my graduate degree? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, is this what's holding you back? He's like, I'm just like, I've got so much anxiety over what's going to happen after. And I'm like, so you're going to graduate and then you're going to go like work in a card store because you like baseball cards. That's probably what's going to happen. Like, doesn't that sound like fun?
Do what you want.
Yeah.
He literally, you saw like the relief. He's like, oh, thank you.
Sometimes you just need to experience it.
Like, right? Like,
you just have to like let it settle in.
Yeah, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be like doing all the right things. And it's like, just be in the moment with what you're doing right now.
It's so critical. I mean, and honestly, you don't need certainty to decide right now. You don't need to know where you're going. Probably the biggest thing that we've learned from you right now, Gina, is like, you need culture, you need some structure, but you need to be able to like have all of that to allow you to decide, to learn and fail and decide to do it again and learn across the board, which is huge.
Right.
Whether it's your team or yourself or your spouse, you need to have permission. Like we need to give each other permission to explore, to consider, to make decisions, to have a safe place to fall back into. And if we do that for ourselves and for the people around us, you know, that's truly where this culture really flourishes and you get, you know, all the fruits of that.
100%. And again, like the personal aspect of my husband, his comment to me after all of that this morning, he goes, I don't want you to think I'm weak. Like, think about how that shows up in your organization with your people, right? Are they not making decisions because they're afraid that you are going to think they're not competent and that they're weak? And I said, babe, you're not weak. Thank you for being vulnerable.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And vulnerability is a strength.
As a leader, you have to say that. Like, I don't think you're incompetent. I don't think it's a bad idea. Thank you for being brave enough to share it with me.
Yeah.
So Gina, let me ask you this, because if someone is listening right now and they're trying to figure out, what do I do? I'm listening to Gina. She's given me all of this information. Where do they start? What's really kind of the first thing? Think about it from like both a leadership perspective and also potentially someone that is trying to be a leader or they're a change maker within their organization. Like, what do they need to do and where do they need to start?
I think that one of the first things that you can do is become more self-aware. And maybe it's starting to write down the things that might give you anxiety as a leader or the things that give you doubt as a leader. Where are you doubting yourself? What are you fearful of as a leader? Write it down. Just start logging it. What decisions are you facing, no matter how small or how big? Start writing down, like, how do you make your decisions? What does your decision-making process look like? Start writing down the good decisions you've made. Because, it's real easy for us to go to, I made a bad decision, I made a bad choice, and we don't give ourselves props for the good things we did, right? Like, give yourself the smallest of accolades for things that you did and start looking for the patterns. Like, where am I struggling and where can I get help around this? Do I feel like I have to make all the decisions in this little vacuum by myself? Do I not trust my team? Do I not have the right people on my team? Like, start looking for what are the gaps in what you're doing. But I think you have to start with being self-aware of your own stuff before you can start looking at the rest of your team.
It's a great recommendation.
In going through that exercise, in order to identify maybe your first organizational efforts, what else would you tailor that to? Like, would you tailor that to maybe project outcomes? Like, if you were to look at your previous projects, like what was successful, what failed, what stalled? Would you look at personality conflicts? Like, what do you think would be the most valuable effort in taking that list and combining it with what organizationally to help also sort of identify how to prioritize changes in the organization?
Well, it depends too on how you, and maybe you're not, how are you measuring success in your organization, right? How do you measure the projects that you are working on? How do you measure revenue? How do you measure employee retention versus turnover? Like, I would look at what's important to the organization, what are the goals and the mission and the vision, and what are the actions that you're taking to do those? And that's what I would start looking at. Like, you should have an after action report for every initiative that you take.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
So you could really start anywhere. It depends on what your goals are. You can call me and I can help you with it.
Excellent. You know what? I think that people need to be calling you immediately. I might be the first. This improv thing, I think, is a fantastic way to really level up client interactions. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, what a great foundation completely and I think everyone can learn so much for you. I'm going to switch us here, Gina, because one of the things we like to do, and I want to make sure I don't miss this, is that we do a highly adaptive playlist for our season 2 here. And we like to learn what is everybody's walk-up song. So you're no stranger to the stage. So what is your walk-up song when you're getting up there?
Currently my go-to is Confident by Demi Lovato because
great song.
Excellent.
I just I think it's such a powerful song. Now, I've had someone actually argue with me about that song.
That must have been a fun conversation.
Yeah, they thought it was, I can't even remember what she said about it. She was my previous podcast co-host from a long time ago. I'm like, that's the song I'm playing.
Yeah, you're like, step off. This is where I'm going.
Yeah. I'm confident that you need to walk away.
Yeah.
This wasn't a time for improv.
Yeah, that confidence has a lot more meaning, and I'm confident this is the end of our conversation right now. So get out of here.
That's awesome. So if people want to be able to reach out to you, they want to find you, they want to maybe follow along with any of the things that you're sharing with the community, where can people find Gina? Are you at any upcoming events digitally? Where can they get your book? All that kind of stuff. Let's tell the people where you are.
Best place is ginatrimarco.com. Or you can also go to thenewchoiceeffect.com, which is the book, but that brings you to my website as well. So it's a page on the site, but that would be the quickest, easiest way to get to me. As far as anything upcoming, I don't have anything upcoming scheduled because my goal right now is to finish grad school. And I've got, at this moment of recording, 7 weeks to go. And eye on the prize. I'm staying focused on that before I start writing the next book in June. So right now I'm just staying focused on one thing. Well, plus work.
Nice.
I love it.
Very good.
And you guys, I mean, definitely, you can also buy The New Choice Effect on Amazon. So if you don't go to Gina's website, you can definitely get it there. I have it. I've read it. You can learn more about the mob conversation. You also, the best thing about this book as well is that you don't have to read it from start to finish. You have the ability to kind of go to any chapter that resonates with you in that moment. You can read it start to finish, but I mean, I've jumped around. Like it is great. I highly, highly, highly recommend it for so many people. So for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. For those listening, the way the book is designed is different aspects of life, from family to work to school to health. So wherever you're, even death, wherever you are right now and you need, you're stuck in indecision, you can pick a chapter and go from there.
Very on brand, Gina. I'm going to say, like, with the choose your adventure, like life, and then the choose your adventure book. I mean, look,
grasshoppers to choosing your chapter.
Coffee shop, down to the arguments around Demi Lovato.
Maybe my next book will be called Grasshopper.
I love this. Hey, that could have a lot more meaning to it. We could tie in. I like it.
That's amazing. And then also, listen, do follow on LinkedIn, obviously, if you find her on LinkedIn. If you happen to be in and around the Carolina Improv Company, right? If you're in that area, definitely check them out. Look, this conversation, if it did what I think it did, then we're all walking away with a different definition of psychological safety, one that doesn't let anyone off the hook, including ourselves. So definitely make sure you, as Erin had mentioned, like pick up the Choice Effect, check it out, read it at your leisure in whatever order you'd like. You'll see the benefits in there. And if this episode hit home, share it with a leader who's in your life, who's still waiting for their team to decide, or maybe someone who hasn't even given themselves permission to take smaller steps towards their goals. And maybe they need this conversation more than you know.
I'm going to piggyback off this because I'm also going to say, like, get the new Choice Effect right now and then wait for the book, Trust the Grasshopper. I'm naming your book, Gina. I'm already naming it.
You're putting it into the universe.
Thank you, because I've been struggling with the title. It's got the word trust in it, but now Trust the Grasshopper might be it.
I mean, I think this can go pretty far. But honestly, thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Highly Adaptive. We'll be back next week with another conversation from a leader who, and if you are ready to learn and adapt, come and listen to us. We can't wait for the next one as well. And Gina, we just so appreciate you. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Big thanks to Allied Insight, not just our sponsor, but an industry leader and preferred marketing partner to staffing and consulting businesses nationwide. If your firm is looking for expert-level support that goes beyond the logo, you know where to go, alliedinsight.com. If this episode helped you, share it with your friends and colleagues and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, consider leaving us a review, and when you're ready for more industry insights, articles, case studies, and more, find it on allthingsstaffing.com. This episode was produced and edited by Allied Insight, and the music provided by Home Music Stock. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.